He is a book lover, a collector of sacred wisdom, a spiritual practitioner and producer, and host for a spiritual radio program that has aired for over 30 years.
And I also collect books. I collect writings of masters. It's a way to travel time, to collect the poetry of Kabir or some of these great saints of the ages, Mahavira of Jainism, Buddha, Buddhist sutras, Gnostic gospels, words of masters and mystics. And so I've just always been very fond of collecting those writings, and those provide the basis for many of my programs, that research that's gone into the writings of all of these different saints.
Supreme Master Ching Hai has made contributions over the years totaling $25,000 to lovingly support the work of Mr. James Bean and Spiritual Awakening Radio.
Please continue watching to find out more.
Zdravo, elevated viewers. Zdravo means hello in Serbian, one of the official languages of Kosovo. I am Leonora. The kind people of Kosovo join you in all actions that support the compassionate vegan lifestyle. In today's program, we are honored to present to you our special guest and a longtime friend of Supreme Master Television, Mr. James Bean.
It's time for Spiritual Awakening Radio. There's not just one religion, there are thousands. After years of being concerned that too few voices, too few points of view are getting heard when it comes to spiritual paths and world religions, that the radio airwaves were not reflecting the diversity that really exists, I started producing my own programs, exploring the world.
We often hear the deep and reassuring voice of Mr. James Bean on Spiritual Awakening Radio, a program that explores the world of spirituality, religion, ancient scriptures, and other holy texts. Mr. James Bean of Maine, USA, launched Spiritual Awakening Radio in September 1988 out of his pure love of the great masters and their teachings. The focus of Mr. Bean's programs is to share, through radio and other media, a deeper understanding of spirituality for a more peaceful planet. He is also a mystic explorer of the inner heavenly light and sound of God, and a devotee of the spiritual path from India, known as Sant Mat.
Spiritual Awakening Radio is an idea that I had many years ago. I started collecting all of these wonderful writings of spiritual masters, mystic poetry, Kabir, Guru Nanak, Dadu, Dayal, all of these great saints of the ages. And I just wanted to be able to share them on the radio. And this was before the internet got invented, and I did that via local radio for a while. And so as the technology has evolved, I have continued to do that in the venues that are available. And now, of course, podcasting is the latest. For a number of years, I've been on satellite radio, I've been on international shortwave, local community and public radio stations, and of course the World Wide Web, YouTube, podcast venues. I made an agreement with a company not too long ago to distribute podcasts to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of those venues. And of course, I'm already on YouTube. And so just sharing knowledge that's hard to come by in different categories, words of masters.
Mr. Bean went on to explain how the name of his radio program came about, as well as his research with spiritual scriptures to provide the show's content.
Basically, the name is taken from a book I have in my library called Spiritual Awakening. It's a book of spiritual discourses by Sant Darshan Singh. And I like that name a lot, Spiritual Awakening. And so I just attached the word radio to that, Spiritual Awakening Radio. And I also collect books. I collect writings of masters. It's a way to travel time, to collect the poetry of Kabir or some of these great saints of the ages, Mahavira of Jainism, Buddha, Buddhist sutras, Gnostic gospels, words of masters and mystics. And so I've just always been very fond of collecting those writings, and those provide the basis for many of my programs, that research that's gone into the writings of all of these different saints. So I just enjoy sharing that with other people that don't have the time, to sort through all of these writings. So it's a service I enjoy doing, to share this knowledge with other people out there. That's books that are not published in the United States but might come from India, or translations of texts that were originally written in Aramaic or Syriac or Coptic, and some obscure scholarly book company has translated them in English. Obscure stuff, not exactly bestseller type books, but that's the kind of stuff I read.
The books discussed on Spiritual Awakening Radio are not always easy to obtain. Mr. James Bean talked about how he finds them.
A wide variety of sources. Might be ordering from a bookstore in Virginia that specializes in importing rare books from India that are in English, that don't normally show up on the radar screen because they're in English, but they're not published in the U.S. Sometimes you can find things for free online. There are free sites like archive.org, where not too long ago the Digital Library of India put a treasure trove of all of these rare books from India online. Many different avenues when it comes to books.
Let's take a refreshing walk in the park. We'll come back right after a constructive message on Supreme Master Television. Welcome back, noble viewers. Mr. James Bean does not collect books just for a hobby. He holds a cherished and noble motivation in his heart.
I just feel very compelled to share master wisdom, with as many people as possible, and all of this rare stuff. And my objective is to simply share knowledge that otherwise is not so available. As I tune across the radio dial, an international shortwave radio dial, the teachings of masters, enlightened spiritual masters, are still very rare in this world. And you can look at a lot of bookshelves in a lot of bookstores, look at a lot of Facebook pages, and see everything but, right? There's a lot of stuff out there, but that master level wisdom is not something that's easy to come by. And so I just have this long-term, inspired from within, mandate to share this wisdom, master wisdom, with people that are into it, that are receptive to it. And I'm just always wanted to do that, and have managed to pull it off.
In following his inner mandate, Mr. James Bean has gathered up many spiritual treasures. It has become his mission to then share them with people for their soul's self-awakening. During our interview, he shared some of his most meaningful quotes collected over the years.
This is from the Syriac Aramaic, a certain manuscript of the Gospel of Luke. This is a saying attributed to Jesus, A vegetarian saying that's not in the Greek manuscripts that are used in most Bibles, but was in this old Syriac Aramaic manuscript of the New Testament Gospels. A vegetarian saying of Jesus, "Be on guard so that your hearts do not become heavy with the eating of flesh and with the intoxication of wine and with the anxiety of the world." Now, that's right out of the Gospel of Luke, only from a different manuscript. And a couple of quotes from Swami Sant Seviji, who is from the Sant tradition of India. "What's the use of receiving this human form if we do not serve others in thought, word, and deed? If we hold our thoughts only on worldly material things and refuse to think of that which is higher and more subtle, then our faith in the transcendental will inevitably diminish." And one more from Swami Sant Seviji, from a book called Harmony of All Religions, which is very diplomatic. You know, it's got chapters on Hinduism and Buddhism and Jainism and Sikhism and Islam and Christianity. The individual soul has descended from the higher worlds, the realm of the divine, to this city of illusion, bodily existence. It has descended from the soundless state to the essence of sound, and from that sound to light, and finally from the realm of light to the realm of darkness. The 10th gate is the gathering point of consciousness. Therein lies the path for our return. The 10th gate is also known as the 6th chakra, the third eye, the center located between the two eyebrows. This is the gateway through which we leave the gates of the sense organs and enter into the divine realms and finally become established in the soul. We travel back from the realm of darkness to the realm of light, from the light to the divine sound, and from the realm of sound to the soundless state. This is called turning back to the source. This is what Dharma or religion really intends to teach us. This is the essence of Dharma. One of my favorite quotes.
In the next episode, we will explore with Mr. James Bean one of the most ancient ways to return to our noble origin through the inner heavenly light and sound meditation.
Supreme Master Ching Hai has contributed several times to further the good cause of Mr. James Bean and Spiritual Awakening Radio. In 2009, she offered $5,000 along with some of her books, DVDs, and CDs. In 2018, she also provided the English book series The Key of Immediate Enlightenment, volumes 1 to 5, along with other DVDs. Most recently, in 2019, Supreme Master Ching Hai gave $20,000 to Mr. James Bean and Spiritual Awakening Radio in support of his veg promotion.
Supreme Master Ching Hai is deeply grateful to the beloved God for all the financial help, comfort, and support to the afflicted and needy, and or any good cause over the years, as a humble vessel for Here's compassion and love toward Here's precious children.
For more information and quotes from masters, please log on to spiritualawakeningradio.com or email james@spiritualawakeningradio.com. Radiant viewers, it's been a pleasure to have your company for today's Words of Wisdom.